Hey, it's James from Marketing for Restaurants here. Welcome to episode 136 of Secret Sauce, the restaurant marketing podcast, COVID Entrepreneurship, the week that every restaurant became a startup.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success, your secret sauce.
Hey team, welcome back to the podcast. What a week it's been. This has been an unprecedented week, I think, as regard to goings on worldwide. I've been running businesses for 21 years and I've never seen anything like this. Globally, it looks like China is getting back on its feet. Singapore seems to be doing quite well. In the United States, New York, Los Angeles doing really quite badly, and Australia quite nervous about where we are headed to. Just how bad is this going to get? For small businesses, which are the engine room of the economy, this has been really critical. There are a huge number of changes that are occurring in the business landscape, and they are occurring literally day by day, hour by hour. And so as small businesses, one of the great things that we have is flexibility. That means that we can roll with the punches. That means that we can seize the opportunities as we see them. So I wanted to talk about three things today very quickly. Firstly, we're going to talk a little bit about leadership. Then we're going to talk about your business that has become a startup. Because I know in my business, we're doing some things very differently to the way that we did them last week because things have changed very differently. We're going to talk about the concept of Runway. This is critical for so many businesses that we are seeing now. Then we're going to talk about a little bit of innovation because I think this is the exciting thing that I think is just talking to so many business owners and finding out what it is that they're doing so that they can keep their business going. The first thing I wanted to talk about very quickly was leadership. For many of us, we have that role of being the leader of our organizations, whether we want it or not. It kind of like goes with the territory. The definition I always use of what leadership is that it is getting people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. There's another component to that, and that's about having a vision of where your organization is going to be at some time in the future, because that's what you want people to be doing. You want them to be moving your small business towards that point, towards where your vision sees the company going. There's a couple of things in that. You need to communicate. That communication needs to be open and honest. On top of that, actions speak louder than words. Leadership really comes into its fore in a time like this, in a time of crisis, because you can see that there are so many people who are really, really worried about what the future is going to hold for them. Employees are fearful for their job. Business owners are fearful of probably the mortgage that they've got that they've used to finance their small business. Suppliers are worried that they're going to get paid. Customers are worried that they're potentially going to get the COVID-19 if they come into your business and talk to you. So there's a lot of fear out there, and this is where strong leadership is really, really important. There's a couple of things that I've been doing as a leader to try and counteract that. Firstly, I've been trying to get really factual information. So I've been using the WHO situation reports. Every day they come out, and they've got some great tips on how to manage the virus. And on top of that, it's very factually based and there's no hysteria. There's so much stuff on Facebook and in the mainstream media that is really, really quite doomsday type in the way that they're doing their messaging. The other thing is I'm leveraging my network to find out what is going on. So I'm getting stories from people who are on the ground. This is how I know that Singapore is, pretty much getting back to normal now, which is really quite exciting. Also, I received some interesting news today. In Italy, the big difference between Italy and many other countries is that they will have some families where there are 4 generations of that family living in one place. This is why their death toll is so large. It's because The elderly, who are very prone, unfortunately, to this disease, are being exposed to it at a great rate, and that is what is causing the high death rate. So it is highly unlikely in countries like the United States, in the UK, or in Australia that those kind of death rates are going to be replicated. That is exciting news. That's something that we can all be a little bit hopeful about, I think. Every day we're communicating with our team. So as you know, we've got employees in 2 countries, and it's quite worrying for some of them. Some of them have been worried about their jobs. I've openly and honestly communicated what our plan is, what our cash flow position is, so that they know exactly how secure their jobs are. They're pretty secure. We're really lucky here. But everyone in the team, they've got individual circumstances. So one of the team members, his wife is pregnant. She is probably going to have a baby next week. And they're in the Philippines, so it could be a little bit interesting for them getting healthcare. One of our other Filipino team members has got a sick dad. Now, these are things that are really quite worrying. These are the things that you need to be thinking about across all of the people in your team to be looking after them. You also need to be thinking about how that's impacting your customers. What is it that's going through your customer's mind? How is it that you're going to interact with them? How is it that you're going to market to them? Now, that communication that you're having with your team, with your customers, with the business community, it needs to be open and honest. It needs to be authentic. And as I said before, actions speak louder than words. Tina and myself, we were talking about some of the things that were going on in the business community. And I know that there's a lot of businesses that are really, really, really struggling, particularly restaurants, particularly tourism. And one of the things that I've been saying is that you should be asking for a rent holiday. This is probably the best advice that we've given a lot of the either customers or people who've been just ringing us up for a bit of advice. Ask for a rent holiday. And then I was thinking about it, and it was like, well, we've got a commercial property that we lease out to someone. Now, I don't even know them. It's in a different state. We rang our real estate agent and we said we want to offer them 1 month rent-free. And they weren't even sure how they were affected economically. And they said, well, what if they don't need it? How about we tie it to them signing up, extending their lease? And I said, no, just give it to them. If they're struggling, then this is one thing that they're not going to have to worry about as far as cash flow goes. One thing that hopefully may make the difference between them going under and surviving, having to lay off people or being able to keep them on. If they don't need it, then I said to the real estate agent, all I ask is that they spend that money with some of their local businesses. Money's made round to go around. I looked on it as a random act of economic stimulus. I've got to tell you, that was the best thing I did all week. I felt so good after doing it. I don't even know these people, but just thinking about the impact that that's going to have on their business. So I'm continuing that for all landlords out there. Go the rent holiday if you can. Obviously, not everyone's financial position enables them to do that, but have a think about that. For any business out there, talk to your landlord about a rent holiday. There is so much economic stimulus going on. The banks are looking at interest deferrals, state governments, federal governments. There is money sloshing around. This is one of those things that you need to be thinking about. If it doesn't apply to you, does it apply to someone in your ecosystem, someone that you interact with? Your landlord might be able to get an interest deferral for 5 or 6 months. You might be able to defer some of your rent for 5 or 6 months, because we don't know how long this is going to go for, but hopefully it's not going to be 6 months, eh? Now, with all of the changes that have occurred, this is why I'm saying that every business has now become a startup. Every business is starting to get really entrepreneurial about what they do. So one of the things that I think you need to be thinking about is Runway. What is your cash burn rate? And, because this is the thing, there's a lot of really profitable businesses that are now losing money. There's a lot of businesses that were marginal that are now losing a fortune. So what is your cash burn rate and how much runway have you got? If you've got $10,000 in the bank and it is costing you, you're losing $1,000 a week, you've got 10 weeks of runway. What are the things that you can do to extend the runway? Can you decrease your wages bill? Can you get some people working part-time? Can you get them working 3 days a week as opposed to 5? Can you get some of your casuals to work less shifts? Are you going to have to lay some of your staff off? Hopefully not, but you might need to do that. Can you get a rent holiday? That would be something that would make a big difference in that cash burn rate. Some of the customers that I've spoken to There's been some who've been really desperate for us to, because we do quite a bit of marketing, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? And I'm always, marketing starts after you've worked out the business. These are effectively new businesses because of the fact that everything has changed. In a restaurant, many people have got only 20% of the diners that they've got. In New York, there is no dining in. So it's takeout or nothing, or takeout and delivery or nothing. So fundamentally changing those businesses, you've got to look at them as what they're like this week. And sadly, the advice for some small businesses is you should probably shut down because there's no amount of marketing that's going to be able to bring in the customers that you need. You really need to fundamentally change that equation. And if you can't, then you need to look at shutting down. Probably shut down earlier rather than later because the cash that you need is going to be able to maybe pay out entitlements for your employees. That's probably the right thing to do. It might leave you with a little bit of cash at the end of the day so that you can be able to survive because, everyone's going to be doing it tough. There's so many people who lost their jobs this week. I think in Australia, we have no idea, but I think more people lost their job last week than in the entire of last quarter. People are being laid off at a frightening rate, at a horrific rate. And that's because businesses are looking at it and thinking, we're not going to be able to make this work. In Victoria, first off, there was a limit of groups of 500 people, then it went down to 100. Now they're saying that you can't have more than one person per 4 square metres. It's changing on a daily basis. Retail, hospitality, those kind of businesses, they go from having a business model that works all the way down to having a completely unfinanceable business plan when they can only get certain numbers of people in. I was talking to a pub owner this week and they were struggling with the 100, the one person per 4 square metres. That just is never going to work for them. So look at what your runway is like. Bearing in mind that, so in Australia, we don't have a lockdown yet. That's potentially coming. What is your lockdown plan? That's a big thing that you need to be thinking about. If it happens, I personally think that it will. If it happens, I personally think it's only going to be a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. We'll have to see how that goes. But many businesses are going to struggle. That's why a lot of professional services business have been really focusing on getting their employees to be able to work. It keeps them safe, keeps them out of harm's way, and it means that they'll have a business that they can continue running for a period of time, trying to get this runway out as long as possible. The interesting thing that we think is going to happen over the next probably 8 weeks is as there'll be very, very little demand for some things. However, as businesses close down, the strong businesses are going to be able to survive, and those that come out the other end are probably going to be significantly better. In the restaurant industry, I think we will see north of 20% of restaurants close permanently. Now, what some are doing is they're getting a rent holiday and they're laying off all their staff, knowing that in 8 weeks, they're hopefully going to be able to come back to that business. That may or may not work. Those staff, what are they going to do? Other businesses, we're going to talk about some of the innovation in just shortly, because that's where I think it's really quite exciting. Anyone who comes out that other side, though, if there are 20% less restaurants, that's going to be fantastic because a lot of people are going to have some cash in their pocket. They're going to be keen to get out. They're going to be keen to go out and get a good meal. They're going to be keen to get things back to normal. So it will be quite a good time, I think, for those who can make it through. The other thing is with all of the governments with doing things like the quantitative easing and all of the money that they're pumping into the system, there will be money sloshing around out the other side. So quite an opportunity, I think, there for those that can get this runway part right. That's the real trick. So we've talked about the things that you can do. Obviously, wages is a big component. In a restaurant, food costs. If you're not selling any food, then you shouldn't have any food costs. So we've talked about things that you can do to minimize the cash burn rate. Obviously, the other side of that is the cash coming in. The more cash that you've got coming in, the longer that runway will be to the point where you get break even. And if you're at break even, then you're going to survive, because obviously anything less than break even and you're relying on your financial resources, whether it's the money that you've got in the bank or, stretching out your suppliers, stretching out the government, hopefully not stretching out your team members, because that's going to be difficult for them. and of course, getting in more customers. So, some really interesting things that we're seeing here. Firstly, people are destocking inventory, so running specials on things that they don't think they're going to be able to move in the next 8 weeks. What is the deal that they can do to be able to move some of that stock? The next thing is they're going through the business model canvas type process as they look at their business. And so we've done a podcast with that. I'll include a link in there for you to have a listen to that, because it's going to give you a few ideas. In the restaurant industry, we're seeing obviously there's a big move towards people doing pickup or delivery, of course, plus or minus all of the issues that they've got with that. Marketing for restaurants have got the free restaurant online ordering system, and I've got to tell you, we've had a 30% spike in the number of users this week. It's been absolutely crazy, the number of people signing up. I don't think that we've got to everyone who signed up, but we've just been inundated with it. But there's a few other things that you can be doing. So some people are looking at their menu, partially to make it a little bit more attractive, partially in response to supply issues that they've got. But the interesting thing is there's not too many supply issues. A lot of marketing has been done in the restaurant industry around the fact that you can get a good steak at your local restaurant, whereas you may not be able to get it in your local supermarket because of all of the panic buying. That's an interesting dynamic that's playing out across lots of restaurants who've been smart enough to pick up on that. That's quite interesting. The other thing that we're seeing is because there's shortages of things like pasta, some restaurants are actually now looking at doing pasta to get them into small supermarkets. A huge opportunity, something that's going to give them a sustainable revenue flow that will see them through, create the runway that they need to be able to get through the next 4, 6, 8 weeks, maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. But if they're able to leverage the distribution networks that some of these supermarkets have got, and they're able to come up with a product that people are liking, this is the really smart thinking that is out there that I think is really cool and is going to enable a lot of small businesses to survive through the horror that is COVID-19. Just very quickly going into the business model canvas, you've got your key partners, cost structure, key resources, key activities, value proposition, revenue streams, channels, customer relationships, customer segments. So, when I think about your typical restaurant, you will see that they may be, say, fine dining. That might be a customer segment. The product that they offer is a great night out with all of the fine dining accoutrements, wine, amazing food, amazing experience. Quite a high cost structure. Key resources are going to be the chefs and the way that they get their produce in, because it's generally quite expensive. Key activities, obviously going to be cooking and the presentation of that. The value proposition, it's fine dining, it's the experience, the aspirational type component with that. Channel, generally they're doing their own sort of marketing. Customer relationships, very much a high touch CRM type based customer relationship. Revenue streams, I've only got one revenue stream generally, and that is, people coming into the restaurant, and their customer segments will be people who are really quite affluent. Now what we are seeing is key partners. They may bring in a delivery company, or they may get their key assets, which might be their front of house people, to be starting to do deliveries. Their cost structure, they'll be trying to lower that as quickly as possible through staffing, through rent holidays, whatever it is that they can do, because they're quite an expensive business. Their value proposition, because of the fact that everyone is in a panicked mode, we like to use Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's going to change dramatically. So now people are just really worried about getting some food. There will be some people out there who might be quarantined, might be self-isolating. They will be thinking, you know what, I would like some really nice food because this is a pretty crap time. So for them, the ability to get some nice food will be quite worthwhile. And there's going to be a little niche in there. We're seeing other restaurants that are going from, producing some really amazing food to now saying, here's a 2-kilo pack of food that we can deliver to your home and that'll do 4 or 5 meals for a family. Interesting how people are developing and evolving very, very quickly around that. Revenue streams, take home, pre-cooked, put in the freezer type opportunities. Channels, looking at a supermarket, are they able to stock your sauces or your pasta or something like that? Customer segment, very different now, where people are looking at all of the people that they can deliver to rather than the people that they would draw in. For some businesses, this is making a huge opportunity. For others, it's significantly limiting them. And that's why this assessment about Runway, is your business viable as things change? If you're in lockdown, is it going to be viable, or do you need to sort of put it on ice or close it down? If you're potentially going to go into lockdown, what is that going to mean for you? What are you going to have with those revenue streams? We think that around the world, we're still going to see the opportunity there for takeout, but very different. You'll need to be getting the food out to those people. How are you going to do that? Or are they going to be able to come to you? It's going to be on a state by state and a day by day kind of thing as we look at that. With all of these flexibility, with all of these changes, with all of these options that you've got going on, the big challenge is to stay on top of it and to stay positive. I think if you're struggling psychologically, reach out to people, have a chat. We are all in this together. And I think that's a big thing to remember. We are all in this together. The other thing that I think is really, really important, the sun's going to rise tomorrow, and so will we. The economy, I am 100% certain, is going to bounce back. The challenge when in these dark, dark days is to see what the future is going to be like. That's our job as leaders. We've got to be able to see what that's like and put a plan in to be able to get there. If you're going through the process of shutting your business down, or if you're not sure if you're going to make it, that is really tough. Reach out to your support network. If you don't have a support network, reach out to someone, reach out on social media, reach out to us, because I know how tough it is. We've been talking to lots of people who probably aren't going to make it through the next 8 weeks, and that's a real tragedy. But the economy is going to bounce back. There's going to be lots of money flowing around when it does. And I think that there's going to be lots of opportunities for people to grow bigger businesses or to start again. Just try and focus on that. I know it's really hard. So an amazing week. Every small business becomes an entrepreneurial startup. Look at the runway. Look at how long you've got. Look at everything that you can do to maximize that runway. That is really important. Innovate, innovate, innovate. Look at your customers, look at your suppliers. What are the opportunities there? What are the things that you could be doing now that are going to have a place for the next 4, 6, 8 weeks? And move really quickly on it. Small businesses, hey, flexibility, making those changes on the dime, they're the things that we excel at. I'm seeing that every day with businesses that say, hey, can we get a bit of a hand? We want to do this. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. That's completely out of left field, completely out of the box, but completely going to nail that opportunity. Yeah, stay positive. We're all in this together. Random acts of economic stimulus. Where you can, reach out to another business owner and give them a hand. If you're not in a position, then, ask people, because there are people who are doing some amazing things to help others out. That's it. Stay positive, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.